To reach net zero by 2050, the UK needs a big plan for how it produces and uses energy. Or maybe it needs lots and lots of little plans. At least that's the thought behind local area energy planning, an idea that's gained a lot of momentum in recent years, even garnering a report from the UK Parliament's Office of Science and Technology. So in this video we're going to break down that report, highlighting what local area energy planning is all about, what it's achieved so far, and the challenges that it's going to face if it's to be rolled out nationwide as an exemplary model for the world. In response to climate change, the UK government has set a national target of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. This was outlined in their Build Back Better strategy released in 2021. Within the accompanying report for that strategy, it was estimated that 82% of UK's emissions were within the scope of influence of local authorities, fact that was then reiterated within the more recent POSTnote report. What this scope means is that local authorities, such as city and county councils, have the responsibility for and the power to make key decisions that will directly impact the UK's emissions. However, in order for local authorities to undertake such decisions, they need plans and financing to back it. And that's where local area energy planning, or plans, LAEPs, come in. This is a planning process that aims to outline the most cost-effective way for a local area to decarbonise and set out an action plan for implementation. It's a bottom-up approach, bringing together stakeholders from local communities, energy companies, and industry groups. It's a data-driven approach, and it's a whole system approach, which means it looks at efficiencies throughout every part of the energy system, from supply to transmission to usage, often with the help of models. This way of energy planning was first developed by an organisation called Energy Systems Catapult, ESC, to help make plans for Bury, Bridgend and Newcastle. Since then, though, the method has become increasingly popular across the UK, and as of 2022, 20 LAEPs have been developed for a range of cities and counties. Now, the scope of these LAEPs vary, but there are similarities across three main sectors: buildings, transport, and energy. Examples of proposals around buildings include identifying the priority areas for installing heat pumps, encouraging rooftop solar panels, and other low-carbon technologies such as batteries, which can reduce peak demand of energy. Energy efficiency is on the agenda too. New buildings are going to be encouraged to have smart, energy-efficient designs, and existing buildings will be assessed to see which would benefit most from retrofits to increase their energy efficiency. When it comes to transport, perhaps unsurprisingly, electric vehicle infrastructure is a primary focus, specifically when it comes to deciding where best to place charging points. Improvements to other means of transport are key too, such as investing in cycle routes, pedestrian crossings, expanded bus routes, and caps on fares. And there are some efforts being put towards reducing the amounts of travel we have to do altogether, such as encouraging work from home and carpooling to reduce the emissions from commutes. Now, energy is a slightly trickier topic to deal with locally, given that Westminster holds a lot of the cards when it comes to national-scale energy policy. Nevertheless, a lot of LAEPs are encouraging closer dialogues with regional network distribution operators over issues such as increasing capacity and connections. As well as that, there are efforts to find more suitable sites for large-scale renewable developments, such as wind and solar farms. This would have the added benefit of increasing the UK's energy security with homegrown energy, reducing its reliance on imports from a volatile global market. Now, it's worth noting that some, but not all, LAEPs have also thrown in some environmental objectives. Some of these are agricultural plans aiming to reduce emissions from farming machinery, and others might aim to protect marine areas. Come the end of the process, though, the end result should be a prioritised action plan that identifies low-hanging fruit that can be tackled in the short term, as well as low-regret, longer-term actions. Now, this all sounds great in theory, but what does it look like in practice? Well, to see that, we can take a look at Greater Manchester. Back in 2019, the so-called Trailblazer City set a target to be net zero by 2038, a goal that's estimated to require £65 billion in investment. So to set such a large project off on the right track, the city's 10 boroughs all completed LAEPs. They engaged the public by releasing a tool which let them vote on their preferences for zero-carbon technologies, checking off the bottom-up approach. They worked with Electricity North West, the region's network operator, to find solutions for extra capacity with a data-driven underpinning. Check. Furthermore, a local energy market tool has entered development, which will be a digital marketplace which will allow residents to buy and sell energy based off of cost, carbon intensity, and location. This tool will only be made possible with the help of whole system mapping. Check. With the 10 plans completed, they then combined them into one large plan to represent Greater Manchester as a whole, which was then adopted in September 2022. This plan had 5 key to-dos by 2027, so 5 years after it was adopted. They plan to reach 2 gigawatts of rooftop solar panels installed on the top of domestic homes and 2.5 gigawatts installed on the top of public buildings. Have 8,000 homes connected to central sources of heating known as heat networks. Have 116,000 heat pumps installed. Have 140,000 homes fabric retrofitted to improve energy efficiency. And replace 190,000 petrol and diesel vehicles with electric ones. Now, if all of this comes to light, it will bring about great social and environmental benefits. However, as of the very early stages, there is not yet any evidence of tangible results. Although Manchester has seen increased green energy investment, such as for a regional hydrogen hub, it isn't clear if this is a direct result of the LAEP. In fact, across the wider UK at present, there is a lack of evidence that plans have led to tangible results or investment in an area. Mind you, as said before, it is early stages, and this hasn't stopped the Welsh Government from recommending that all of their counties produce LAEPs by this year, 2024. Still, as it isn't a statutory requirement, those local authorities will need to buy into the idea, especially given the process has its challenges. One such challenge for plans such as these is how much guidance is provided to local authorities. In Scotland, there's a similar but smaller scale initiative being pushed by the Scottish Government known as Local Heat and Energy Efficiency Strategies. This scheme ran into issues over a lack of clarity, skills and resources. Now, in response for calls for help, the Scottish Government did provide extra support, but in cases where the expertise of local authorities and devolved governments isn't enough, organisations will be turned to. Organisations such as ESC, who have offered their expertise to Scotland's 32 local authorities to turn their local heat and energy efficiency strategies into local area energy plans if they so desire. However, turning to organisations does come with an added cost, and there are concerns that plans made by these organisations might be too expensive or too reliant on the organisation's expertise, and so left on the shelf. On top of that, the funding methods for plans such as this are a little all over the place. Right now, a lot of the funding for these projects is achieved by local authorities making competitive bids, which results in a postcode lottery of successes. However, if LAEPs are to be rolled out across the entire nation, then this will probably have to change. Not only will they require high initial investment, but they will also need longer-term funding plans, hopefully aided by the savings which they aim to provide. After all, a recent analysis by Innovate UK and PwC concluded that bottom-up approaches such as these might actually cost a third of what a top-down approach would cost, in part because it reduces the doubling up of efforts. Now, there is an argument to be had that it might be cost-effective to standardise the LAEP process, as long as that standardisation doesn't require too much extra funding to go into more and more planning rather than action itself. If LAEPs are to be rolled out across all 327 local authorities in the UK, then standardisation would allow them to be clumped together into regional and then national scale plans as well. This would mean that the UK could keep really good track of its net zero progress and show that off to other countries, and potentially become a leading example of a country undertaking a green transition on a global stage. For now though, only time will tell if LAEPs are what will get the UK to net zero, and if the local solutions are as cost effective as predicted. Many of the plans remain in development, and of those already in place, such as in Greater Manchester, evidence of their impact is still only anecdotal. Still, if they can get past the funding challenges, then don't be surprised if you start hearing more and more about them. In the future, we may see that the UK's goal of net zero may be reached by the sum of many, many votes. That is all for the first episode of the Science Affairs show. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the show, then the best thing that you can do is to subscribe, especially if you've made it this far in the video. But yeah, see you again soon.